Why we become afraid of money, the hidden root of poverty thinking. So hey everyone, recently in the Sunny Club a very interesting topic came up. Someone asked me about finances, specifically about what people call the psychology of poverty, the fear of money, and how our mindset is actually connected to the amount of money we have in our wallet. I answered that question inside the club, but then I thought, why not make a full YouTube video about this? Why not share the core ideas? The real psychological mechanisms that block us from reaching a more stable and comfortable state. Especially because YouTube is overflowing with motivational nonsensy, those escape poverty trainings, those allow yourself wealth seminars, all these loud promises where they tell you, buy yourself a Ferrari, feel rich, step into wealth consciousness, and what happens after such trainings? People come home, nothing changes, and they begin thinking, everyone else succeeds, but not me. Maybe something is wrong with me. But the truth is, those courses simply do not explain the real mechanisms. Because in reality, our mindset, our subconscious programming, our childhood trauma, and our emotional development are all directly connected to how we handle money, how we see money, how we receive money, and whether we allow ourselves to hold money. I recently read research where scientists found a direct correlation people with childhood psychological trauma are much more likely to remain in long-term financial struggle. Why? Because childhood trauma creates internal programming, fear, guilt, unworthiness, self-sabotage, all of which later become patterns that determine how a person interacts with financial energy. And on my channel, you know I speak often about programs, about how society implants it into our heads to make us manageable, to keep us easy to control, to keep us energetically drained, to keep us in fear and dependency. Financial instability is another tool of control. A person who is financially weak is easier to manipulate, easier to intimidate, easier to bind, easier to extract resources from, both energetic and material. In psychology, there is even a term, economic abuse. It means intentionally keeping someone financially dependent so you can control their life. When a person lives in constant financial vulnerability, they are easier to push, easier to suppress, easier to break, easier to direct. We see this in the world around us. We see attempts, we shift humanity into digital control systems to attach all finances to central external structures, to create dependence, to create the situation where you own nothing and feel happy. This is also manipulation, and the system relies on people remaining financially weak, with a real source of financial fear. Deep psychological programming. So today I want to talk about the most common internal settings, the ones that society, family, culture, and trauma install into our minds, programs so deep that we don't even realize they guide our financial life. These programs shape how we treat resources, how we treat opportunity, how we treat our own abilities, and whether we allow ourselves to step into a better life. These are not simple money blocks. These are frameworks that control our whole self-realization, not only financially, but creatively, emotionally, professionally. These programs force us to fear our own potential, to avoid resourceful states, to sabotage our success, to stay small, to stay invisible, to stay safe. This isn't just about money, it's about self-realization itself. And today I will go through these programs one by one, through the patterns that affect thousands of people, patterns I've seen repeatedly in my practice. Let's start with one of the most common G program 1. Big money comes only from hard work. This is one of the deepest and most widespread beliefs. Big money requires painful effort. You must work to exhaustion. You must slave from morning till night to deserve anything. But think about this, in a healthy system, the principle is the opposite. Spend minimal resources to receive maximum output. This is the basic logic of efficiency, the KPI of energy, time, effort, and return. A company seeks to spend less time, less energy, less manual labor, less complexity, and gain more result. This doesn't apply only to money, it applies to everything. And yet people are taught work more, exhaust yourself, give everything push to breaking point, and receive less. That's the inversion that traps them. If you pour out massive energy but receive very little back, your internal system sees that as normal. It becomes your baseline reality. And with that worldview, you will never allow yourself to receive more unless you destroy yourself in the process. But that is not how efficiency works. That is not how resource flow works. That is not how abundance works. The nervous system itself rejects the idea of receiving a large reward for a small amount of effort. because the internal program says I don't deserve this. I didn't suffer enough. I've seen so many people who were offered easy, well-paid jobs, only a few hours of work, high salary, and they refused them. Not because the job was bad, but because their subconscious said this is wrong. I cannot receive so much for so little. Something must be wrong. I am guilty. I didn't suffer enough to deserve this. This is a deeply implanted program, and it destroys financial growth. It creates guilt when life becomes easier. It creates anxiety when resources arrive effortlessly. It creates self-sabotage when an opportunity appears. Because deep inside, the person believes to receive anything, I must destroy myself first. This program is one of the strongest forms of control. It keeps people in submission. It keeps people exhausted. It keeps people willing to work for pennies. It keeps employers exploiting them. It keeps systems feeding off their effort. This program must be removed completely. When hard work becomes a cage, and why burnout is guaranteed. So this belief that you must exhaust yourself to earn anything eventually leads a person into a dead end. Because no matter how hard you work, there is always a limit to how much physical effort your body can produce, and no matter how hard you push, you can never push past the natural ceiling of human capacity. So what happens? A person invests everything, their strength, their time, their nervous, their health, and the return stays the same. At some point they hit the wall, the body breaks, the mind collapses, burnout arrives, and the person thinks, why after all this effort am I still not able to earn more? Because the program itself is flawed. It teaches a person to increase the input, but never the efficiency, to give more but never to optimize, to sacrifice instead of strategize. The truth is the opposite. You must work less and earn more. You must think more and exhaust yourself less. You must use strategy, not sacrifice. But for many people, this feels wrong fit through because their inner voice says, I didn't earn it. I didn't suffer for it. This internal conflict is why people sabotage their own opportunities. I've seen this again and again. A person is offered a job with a high salary and light workload, and they simply cannot accept it. They feel guilt, they feel anxiety, their subconscious says, this cannot be real. This is cheating life, so they reject the opportunity and go back to the financial cage they understand. This is not laziness. This is trauma programming. And the guilt of receiving. I didn't do enough to deserve this. One of the most destructive beliefs is this. If I receive something easily, it means I didn't earn it, and therefore I am unworthy. People feel guilty when life becomes easier. They feel shame when money comes without pain. They feel like they are stealing if something comes without suffering. This guilt is deeply implanted, and it can manifest like this. A person gets a bonus or inherits money or receives as a gift or finds a simple job with high pay, and instead of gratitude, they feel discomfort, self-rejection, and even fear. Their subconscious whispers, you don't deserve it. You didn't suffer enough. Give it back. Reject it. Sabotage it. This belief prevents people from receiving abundance, even when abundance is literally offered to them. The society benefits from this programming and people suffer because of it. Let's be honest, people with this mindset are extremely convenient for employers and for any system that wants compliant workers, because such a person will work more, ask for less, feel guilty asking for a raise, take on extra responsibilities for free, accept no wages as normal, suffer silently, and even feel grateful for crumbs. This is why you see millions of people working 3 jobs doing the work of 10 people for a salary that barely covers survival, and they consider it normal. This isn't their fault. These programs were installed in them. And this mindset creates an environment where companies thrive by exploiting guilt-ridden employees, while those employees burn out and never feel worthy of anything better. This is why these beliefs must be dismantled, though when people overprice their work and when they undervalue it. Of course, there are extremes in the other direction too. Some people drastically overestimate their value, charging unrealistic prices for minimal effort. Others deeply undervalue their work, feeling they must charge as little as possible because I'm not worth more. But the truth is simple. Your energy, your time, your skills, your effort have a real value, and the relationship must be balanced. The resource you give must be equal to or slightly less than the resource you receive. You must feel, yes, what I gave is fair compared to what I receive. If you always give more than you receive, you drain yourself. If you always receive more than you give, you collapse into guilt and sabotage. The ideal is a balance where both sides feel the exchange is aligned, and this balance is exactly what old programming destroys. Fin the trap of prestigious professions, and why people live lives that aren't theirs. Another harmful belief is this: to earn good money, I must choose a prestigious profession. This belief destroys countless lives. I've seen so many stories where parents push their children into careers they don't want. Be a lawyer, be an accountant, be an economist, be a manager, because these professions guarantee money. And what happens? A person spends years studying, say they hate it, then spends years working a job that kills their soul and wonders why life feels empty, why nothing works, why they feel broken inside. Meanwhile, their real calling, their real passion, their real path was left untouched. And the saddest part, many people don't allow themselves to change careers because they still obey the programming only prestigious professions bring money. But the truth, money follows alignment, money follows skill, money follows passion, money follows self-realization. If you hate your job, you will never be resourceful in it. But if you do what aligns with your inner nature, you will eventually succeed because emotional alignment always produces growth. I've seen people throw away prestigious careers and become happier, wealthier, and more fulfilled simply because they finally followed their real path. When education becomes a cage, and the myth of the perfect diploma. Another deeply rooted belief says, if you don't have the right diploma, you will fail in life. This idea is so widespread that entire generations built their lives around it. Parents repeated it, schools reinforced it, society worshipped it, and countless people ended up living lives that were never truly theirs. The problem is not education itself. Education is useful, powerful, necessary. The problem is the illusion that a piece of paper automatically guarantees success, that a diploma magically opens all doors, that after graduation, life suddenly becomes easy. But reality is very different. A diploma gives you a foundation. It does not give you a destiny. Life continues after that point, and everything still depends on your decisions, your initiative, your adaptability, your character, your willingness to grow. I've met so many people who spent years and money obtaining prestigious degrees only to work in low-paid jobs because they didn't know what to do next, or because they were pushed into a profession that didn't align with their soul at all. Some of them spent entire lifetimes recovering from that choice. And I've seen the opposite. People with non-prestigious education who built powerful careers simply because they followed what they truly love. So yes, education matters, but alignment matters more. When parents choose a life for their child and the child loses themselves, one of the most painful patterns is this. Parents choose the safe profession for the child to be a lawyer, be an accountant, be a manager. This job is stable. This job is respected. This job earns money. And the child listens because children trust parents blindly, and years later they stand in the middle of their own life with a profession they hate and a soul that is suffocating. I've seen this too many times. People spend 5 or 7 years learning something they were never meant for, and then decades of their life trying to force themselves into a role that kills their spirit a little more every day. And at some moment, the truth breaks through. I'm living a life that was never mine. And then, if they are brave enough, they change direction. They return to themselves. They start again, and only then life begins to breathe. Even top students, top specialists, top workers can be completely miserable if the path is not aligned with their inner nature. Alignment is everything. For when people rebuild their lives, even after successful careers, I've known lawyers who became interior designers, engineers who became artists, IT specialists who became yoga teachers, economists who became photographers, doctors who became writers. Not because they were failures, but because their soul called them elsewhere. And you know what? After the fear, after the growth, after the doubt, they bloomed. Because when you step into your real path, your inner energy finally starts flowing freely, your creativity opens, your strength rises, your resistance disappears, and abundance begins to follow. The world supports authenticity. Even in my old company, one of the top managers who coordinated huge logistics chains had a diploma in physical education. He was trained to be a sports teacher, but he discovered his passion in finance and logistics, and he succeeded without the right diploma because alignment is stronger than formality. This is the truth people rarely teach. A profession by the soul always outperforms a profession chosen by fear. The myth that only physical labor is real work. Another common belief says if you don't work with your hands, you don't deserve to earn money, as if physical labor is the only real labor and mental or creative work is somehow fake. This belief destroys self-worth, especially among people who work in creative fields: IT, finance, management, design, teaching, writing, blogging, content creation, strategy, and hundreds of other non-physical professions. People hurt. You're just sitting at a computer. You're not doing anything real. That's not serious work. No wonder you're paid a lot, you do nothing. But the truth is mental work is exhausting in a completely different way. It requires constant focus, constant creativity, constant emotional regulation, constant pressure, constant responsibility, constant visibility, constant engagement, constant risk of burnout. Even speaking for 2 hours, presenting, teaching, streaming can drain a person more than carrying bricks. I've felt it myself. After 2 hours of a live stream, I need a full day just to recover. It looks easy from the outside, but the internal resource output is enormous. And creative work includes the emotional labor of being seen, being judged, being evaluated, being criticized, while needing to remain stable, positive, and grounded. This too is real work. For when people devalue others, because they devalue themselves. When someone says, "Oh, that's not real work. Oh, that's easy. Oh, that's nothing special," they're not devaluing the profession, they're revealing their own inner wound. Because a person who respects their own work never needs to tear down someone else's. A person who feels fulfilled doesn't compare or diminish, but someone who feels undervalued, who feels unseen, who feels insignificant, who feels it, who feels unappreciated, unconsciously projects that pain outward. They devalue others because they themselves feel devalued. This is the core of it, and this is why the healing must begin inside. Valuing your own effort, your own skill, your own time, your own energy, your own contribution. Only then the external world begins to reflect this back. The inner devaluation is back, and how it shapes your entire financial reality. When a person devalues their own work, their own effort, their own contribution, the entire world starts reflecting that devaluation back to them. And this is the hidden mechanism behind so many financial problems. It doesn't begin with money. It begins with identity. If deep inside you feel, "I'm not worth much, my work is nothing special, others deserve more than I do, I shouldn't ask for too much, I'm not allowed to earn easily," then life responds accordingly. People treat you the way you secretly treat yourself, not consciously, but energetically, emotionally, behaviorally. You undercharge, you overwork, you accept disrespect, you tolerate exploitation, you feel guilty for receiving, you fear demanding, you shrink your presence, you hide your gifts. And life says, if that is your internal standard, here is the external equivalent. This is why people with low self-worth often find themselves in jobs where they are underpaid, overburdened, undervalued, invisible, ignored, or exploited. It is not because they lack talent, it is because their inner programming is sabotaging their outer reality. This is the essence of the psychology of poverty, not the external numbers, but the internal convictions. So how these beliefs are installed, and why they are so hard to notice. These financial barriers are not logical. They are emotional, psychological, and often inherited. They come from childhood experiences, family stories, cultural narratives, generational trauma, social environments, school conditioning, religious messaging, collective beliefs, and personal wounds. We grow up hearing things like, "Money doesn't come easily, be grateful for what you get, don't ask for too much, rich people are greedy, wanting more is selfish, you must suffer to earn, easy money is dirty money, you're irresponsible with money, you don't know how to handle finances, money will spoil you, success is for others, not for us." These ideas sink into us long before we are able to question them. By adulthood they feel like truth simply because they've always existed in our minds. But these beliefs are not truth, they are programs, and every program can be rewritten. The people who change their financial reality all do the same thing. The people who have transformed their financial lives did not do it by winning the lottery or by working harder or by being born lucky. They did it by changing the inner story, by confronting beliefs like "I'm not worthy," "I can't," "I won't succeed," "this is not for me," "I don't deserve more," and replacing them with "I can learn," "I can choose differently," "I deserve stability," "I deserve comfort," "I deserve abundance," "I deserve to live without fear." Abundance begins in the nervous system long before it appears in the bank account. The moment a person changes how they speak to themselves, the moment they allow the possibility of a different life, reality begins to shift around them. I've seen this countless times with people in the club and with people around me. The internal transformation is always the key. Then the mindset that opens doors instead of closing them. The shift looks like this. Instead of I can't do that, you begin thinking, let me see how I could. Instead of I'm not that kind of person, you begin thinking I can grow into that version. Instead of that's impossible for me, you begin thinking what if it is possible? This is not naive positivity, it's psychological freedom. A person who believes possibilities exist starts noticing them, starts trying things, starts learning, starts taking small steps, and life responds to that movement. This is why I say your inner world is the root, your outer world is the branches. Change the root and everything above changes. On my own path, and why I understand this so deeply. Everything I'm telling you comes not only from observation, but from my own life. I grew up without wealth. I didn't have influential connections. I didn't have special support systems. Yet my relationship with money was never rooted in fear. Because early in life I adopted a mindset that said I don't need to be a millionaire, but I want to live comfortably and I want to manage my resource wisely. Even when I worked in low-paying jobs, I could still afford things that many people around me could not. Not because I earned more, but because I thought differently. I never treated money as something external. I treated it as resource flow, as a reflection of how I use my energy. And energy, attention, and mindset are things we can consciously manage. I never needed courses on Think Like a Millionaire. I never needed financial books. I never needed gurus. I simply built my relationship with money the same way I built my relationship with life, through mindfulness, through clarity, through alignment, through self-respect, through honest understanding of my needs. And later, when I came across content from actual millionaires, I was surprised to see that our thinking patterns were almost identical. Resource management is a mental architecture, and anyone can rebuild architecture within themselves. For what money actually is, and why people fear it. Money is not paper. It is not coins. Money is frozen energy. It is a symbolic form of your internal resource. Your time, your effort, your intelligence, your creativity, your courage, your choices, your productivity, your emotional stability, your planning, your tuition, your discipline. This is why people who don't respect their own energy also don't have a healthy relationship with money. Because money behaves exactly the way you behave toward yourself. If you waste your inner resources, you will waste financial resources. If you fear your inner power, you will fear financial power. If you distrust your inner capabilities, you will distrust financial opportunities. This is the hidden mechanism that keeps people poor. Say money as a tool, not a threat. The shift happens when you begin to see money as a tool for expansion, a tool for comfort, a tool for learning, a tool for creativity, a tool for freedom improvement, a tool for stability, tool for self-care. Money becomes less frightening when you stop seeing it as a judge and start seeing it as a companion. Something that helps you build your life instead of something that threatens to ruin it. Most fears around money are actually fears around responsibility because money requires decision making and many people fear making decisions. But this can be healed, step by step, belief by belief, action by action, realizing you're not alone, the collective story. Many people think their financial struggles are personal failures when in reality they are echoes of social programming. I've spoken to countless people who suddenly recognize themselves in all these patterns, and that moment of recognition is the first moment of freedom. Because when you can see the root, you can uproot it. This is why in the club, when we discuss financial blocks, people often say, I finally understand why I lived like this for so many years. And once the pattern becomes visible, the transformation begins. Seeing the enemy is the first step to defeating it. The awareness creates choice. Choice creates freedom. The moment you see, this belief isn't mine, this fear was imposed on me, this limitation is not reality, this is not the truth of who I am, your inner world begins to expand. And with expansion comes possibility, and with possibility comes movement, and with movement comes change. This is the path out of poverty consciousness. Not through forcing success, not through chasing illusions, not through copying others, but through transforming the internal architecture that shapes your entire relationship with resources. And the final message and the beginning of transformation. This topic is deep, complex, multi-layered, and I've only uncovered a part of it. But the essence is simple. Poverty is not a number, it is a narrative. And narratives can be changed. When you change the inner story, the outer story follows. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share my channel. Become a member of my Telegram channel and discuss with like-minded people as a supporting club member.